Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, the #1 place to talk about money, mindfulness, education, and more. I'm really excited because today we're going to talk about how to build your credit score. Credit is so important. It is necessary to get a fair interest rate on an auto loan, also getting a fair interest rate in order to purchase a home. And it's so important that, especially if you're a woman or a minority, you really read up on credit and you really learn how to build credit, because historically we have very much been discriminated against in the credit world and in order to really acquire different assets. And credit really does affect your day-to-day life. So before we get started, I just really quickly want to shout out all my social medias. I'm very active on social media, so please go ahead and give me a follow all of there. I would really love to connect with everyone. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's completely free. Turn on those notification bells and like this video. Give it a big thumbs up because there's going to be a lot more content like this. So if you're ready to learn how to build your credit score, then let's get to the video. The first thing I think it's really important to note is that your credit card company, like Chase, for example, or Discover, they do not make your credit score. They do not determine it. Every month, they're gonna report to the credit bureaus how much money you spent. And the credit bureaus will then take that into consideration and calculate your credit score, also taking into account a few other factors. So I think it's the best way for me to explain to you guys how to build your credit by looking at the 5 different categories that the credit bureaus look at in order to determine your credit score. So there's actually 5 different criteria that the credit bureaus use in order to determine your credit score. And the first one is your history of on-time payments. That actually comprises 35% of your overall credit score. Credit card companies are lending you money, of course, with the intention of you giving them back that money. But what they're not explaining to you is paying off your credit card balance in full every single month on the due date or by the due date is not necessarily getting you to build credit extremely fast. Yes, it looks good because you're not going to acquire any interest on your credit card balance because you're clearing it off by the due date every single month. But it's also not showing to the credit bureaus that you have any sort of activity. You have something called a statement date. And on that statement date, the credit card company will send a report to you showing you what balance you have on the card, but they're also going to send that statement to the credit bureaus. So what you want to do is 2 days before your statement date, you want to pay off your balance down to 10% or lower than your available credit line. And let's say I have a credit line of $1,000 and I spent $200 that month. I know that my statement date is on the 16th of every single month. On the 14th of every single month, I'm going to pay a balance of at least $100 to make it look like I have only spent $100 that month. Then, on that statement date, my credit card company is going to report to the bureau that I've only paid $100 on my credit card. Therefore, I've only used 10% of my credit line. And the credit card bureau is going to be happy. They're going to say, great, there's activity. She's actually using her credit card, but also her utilization rate, which I'm gonna explain more in a second, is low. It's only 10%. Great. Then they're gonna start to increase my credit score. I know that sounds really complicated, but this is super important to understand and something that credit card companies don't really tell you. I would advise that every single month inside your budget, whether it be your planner, whether it be an online platform that you use, or you use an app to track your budget, you put your statement date and you also put your due date. If by chance you happen to make a late payment, what I would do is get in contact with your credit card company and potentially write a letter and see if you're able to waive that late payment, especially if it's one time. They might give you a little bypass, especially if you've shown them that you've had a lot of on-time payments. And that way you can prevent from getting dinged. The next criteria that credit bureaus look at is credit utilization. And before we talk about what credit utilization is, it's important to note that there's 2 different types of credit. there's revolving credit, and there's also installment credit. Revolving credit is any sort of credit where your monthly payments are going to be variable, such as a credit card. One month I can spend $100 and owe the credit card company $100, but then the next month I can spend $500 on my credit card and owe that credit card company $500. With installment credit, your monthly payments are fixed. So like an auto loan, potentially you owe $250 every single month, or a mortgage, you owe $1,500 every single month. When determining your credit utilization, the credit bureaus only care about revolving credit. So they're gonna look at your credit line, or the amount of credit available to you, and they're gonna see what percentage of that credit line you spend every single month. They wanna see that you spent something, so 1% of your credit line, but really and truly, to get the best credit score, you want to spend no more than 10% of your credit line every single month. The last three categories I actually want to talk about in tandem, or together, because they really do play off of each other. And that is your length of credit history, which comprises 15% of your credit score, your credit mix, which comprises 10% of your credit score, and new credit, which comprises another 10% of your credit score. If you are a new credit user, this is going to be very hard to score high in all three categories, and here's why. Your length of credit history is looking at the age of your oldest account. The older your account is, the more likely it is for you to score higher in this category. Credit bureaus like to see old accounts. They like to see accounts that have a really long history of being open. It shows that you're able to continue building credit and using credit responsibly with this particular credit card company over a series of years. That's why I always advise you to start building credit from young, even from the age of 16. So moms and dads, if you have a 16-year-old, go ahead and open up a credit card in their name. Even if you're the one who's paying off their monthly bill, it still signals to your child the importance of having a credit card and building credit from young. On top of having a really long credit history, credit card bureaus also want to see that you have a credit mix, so diversified credit. And that means they want to see that you have a mix of revolving credit and installment credit. When you're fresh out of college, it's gonna be hard to have an auto loan, a mortgage, also credit cards. So it's gonna take you a little bit longer and to acquire those different types of credit and to increase your credit score, but it's important that you know that that's what you're working towards. Lastly, there's new credit. And this one's interesting because it's looking at how many hard inquiries you have. Every single time you apply for a credit card, depending on the company, most companies though, will give you something called a hard inquiry, and that goes in your credit report. That's where the credit card company is looking into you to see what is your credit history, to look at your credit score and see what's the probability of this person being able to pay me back. And so it's interesting because here it is, the credit bureau wants to see that you have multiple credit cards with different lengths of history, but yet they don't want to see you applying for too many credit cards at once because you're gonna get a hard inquiry and it's gonna dock you points. But the interesting thing with hard inquiries, they actually only last on your credit report for roughly 6 months. So I would really advise you to continue applying for credit cards every 6 months or year or so in order for you to be able to have a diversified mix of credit, but at the same time, you're not gonna have too many hard inquiries on your credit report to ding you. So talking about all of those different components I talked about, it's really important for you to get started on your credit journey no matter where you are. If you're someone in college, I've actually made a video detailing all of the best starter cards for you to start building your credit. If you're someone who has bad credit, then I've actually made a video talking about the best secured credit cards for bad credit. If you're someone who is comfortable using a credit card, maybe you have one credit card, I would actually advise you to start building the number of credit cards you have. Go ahead and apply for another credit card once you're in a place where you feel very comfortable using your first one and you are making those on-time payments and you are seeing your credit score going up. Having multiple credit cards is not a bad thing. It's only when you have multiple credit cards and you don't know how to use your credit cards. All right, guys, that's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a big thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like it, and let me know in the comment section down below, how are you currently building credit? Or let me know if there's anything else that you want to see me talk about. All right, guys, that's all for today. Bye. Accounts with old ages, on top of having accounts, on top of having credit cards, on top of having different accounts, on top of having,